Mayfair Witches. Shall we kick off? Sharon, shall you tell us what it's about? And then Holly, you can chime in.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's about a young woman who is a doctor, a neurosurgeon in San Francisco, and she has it's like an instinctive doctor. She's obviously trained. She's gone through the university. She's experienced in her surgeon, but is instinctive. She can look at a patient and she can have a feel for what's wrong with them. And she has an incident with one of her senior colleagues where she basically visualizes his brain and he has like a brain aneurysm, and she is worried that she caused this thing. And she goes to her mum, who is her adopted mum, to say, "Is there anything about me that that in my childhood, anything else that's happened, because I feel like I caused this." And then another incident happens where again she feels like she caused a sort of medical episode by the power of her mind. And then she wants to explore her birth family, and her mum says, "Well, yours it's a closed adoption, so I don't know anything about your birth family." And then after her mother dies of cancer, she then finds out that she is from a family of the Mayfair family, originally from New Orleans, and that as a female child of the line of this sort of Mayfair family, she is connected to this sort of matrilineal legacy of basically of witchcraft through these, and it manifests in each generation slightly differently. They have different gifts. And as she goes to New Orleans to find out about her birth mother and about her family, she starts to find out about the history of the Mayfair witches, and that they have this presence, uh, a, a, an entity called Lasher, who sort of is personified in the figure of this man who has basically a relationship with each one of these Mayfair witches. And there is a goal in mind that the 13th Mayfair witch is going to fulfill a prophecy. And she doesn't realize what that prophecy is. And we as the viewer don't really understand what her purpose is, as she's sort of drawn more and more into the world of this Mayfair witches, and she discovers the legacy of the Mayfair matrilineal line. And meanwhile, she meets another man who has sort of taken an interest in her, and he is part of like this secret society of the observers. They're almost like in Buffy, they're the Watchers.
But yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
that sort of
Yep.
thing, like Watchers who either try to protect them or they just try to keep an eye on what's going on in the world of the supernatural.
Yeah.
And so this guy again is involved in this legacy and this prophecy, and in ways that we only find out as the story unfolds.
Right, cool. So far, this is kind of what I expected. I expected it was going to be some dense mythology that you were going to have to dive into and like really sort of like give yourself wholehearted to actually go on with. But so Holly, what did you think?
Well, it's actually very simplified in
as
comparison to the books.
as I would imagine, it would
Read
have
all
to
three
be.
books.
I've seen some of
Massively.
Anne Rice's books. They are big.
Yes.
It's a doorstop, which you also can't still get on Kindle, I believe. Slightly
Again,
bizarre.
things come and go off of Kindle. I've
And
noticed.
it's not there, and it's not on.
Yeah, because of
It is on
Anne
all.
Rice's long publicized beef with Jeff Bezos. Yes, obviously, because
It's all quite mystifying. So the series, the specific Mayfair Witches series, is three books, and the way they have handled the TV series, they are certainly have the capacity to make the next book, and I think that is the intention.
yeah,
It's
Insofar as
certainly set up for carrying on, isn't it? At the
yeah,
end.
um, it's an odd one to watch when you've read the books, because whilst it keeps true to much of the spirit of the books, it deviates quite a lot in some ways that for me are quite important.
mm-hmm.
Um, so you lose some of the layers. It's also a bit less unhinged than the books, arguably, by simplifying it. Some of the books are just so complicated. You never want to try to work out their family tree. Basically impossible to do it. There are layers upon layers of generational incest, completely untrackable. People try to do it online, and you look at these things, and you're like, I genuinely can't follow these lines, and there's no way that should be very, very, very illegal. So you don't you don't find yourself sitting at the screen pouring at it in quite the same way that you do with the books, where you're going, I need to know what.
Yeah, who are
You don't
you
have
again?
to,
Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah.
I guess that's the problem. It's like when you're trying to do something like this, you're trying to make something that has a bit of a wider appeal. That means that we're going to see. That means that gives the show a chance of actually surviving if more people watch it
Yes.
because, as opposed to
Yes.
making something that's just for the people who've already read the book.
Yeah. And you would have to have it would in order to do that, it would have to be much longer, and everybody would have to be really, really glued to their seats for a very, very long time and be prepared to be quite mystified. I don't think it would be possible to
Yes,
make
or
a true
you're saying you
adaptation
would have
for
to have a
people.
literal captive audience to
Yes. Yes,
yeah.
you would. You would have to, they would have to be tied down to chairs to sit through all of it.
yeah.
I thought it was very well done. I was unsure about some of the casting choices, um, at least in part because there are some details that are very based up in the books where people's physical appearance is very important.
Yeah.
Mm.
And
Sometimes it's quite specific about the blue eyes. They've all seemed to have these
yes,
very blue, sort of hypnotically blue eyes.
yeah.
Well,
And there's like
in that
three different shades of blue eyes as well, and
well,
who
I was just gonna
gets
say
which
in
one.
that case they've done well in casting Alexandra Daddario.
They have for the eyes, but her eyes are meant to be grey and her hair is meant to be dark blonde, not black. So, and those are quite key features that are described repeatedly from page one of the book.
Okay, okay.
So it's
I am getting that you guys are finding it impossible to divorce your love of the book from your enjoyment of the TV show.
I am
I haven't
anyway.
actually read the book. I haven't actually
Okay,
read the book. I used to read Anne Rice quite widely. Um, at the time of it was post Into the Vampire, I read post Into the Vampire, and then I read the next sort of three or four books of hers. Like there's a Mummy one, there was like Queen of the
Yeah,
Damned and
Queen of the
Vampire
Damned,
Lestat.
yeah, Body Thief.
What is it? And I
Devil.
started to lose her. She started to get a little bit. She just lost me anyway at
yeah,
that time. So,
yeah.
and then I know there's numerous other sort of vampire sort of universe that I
They,
just basically gave up on.
they pick up again later because I did the same and I dropped
Yeah,
but I read the Mayfair Witches, and then there's an intersection after the Mayfair Witches books where they join in with the Vampire Chronicles,
yeah,
and those ones are good.
yes,
That works quite well. I mean,
yeah,
I have the books, so I'm more than happy to stick them in the post to you. Good read, but as I say, it's heavy and it's complicated and is the world's
yeah.
most bizarre family tree, and yeah, and a very, very, very illegal one.
So that might be why I had some more of I probably had more issues with the series because I didn't struggle with it. I just found some of the characters and some of the choices they made are just inexplicable to me. And I suppose because in a book, obviously you can see their thoughts.
Yes.
And she just seemed to me, she was a bit of like a weather vane. She'd be like saying, no, 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 I don't want to do that. And then she'd actually just do that very thing that she said, I don't want to do. And then further on, it'd be like, I definitely want to sort of get away from this whole thing and I'm going to do this. And so, and then she goes back and she does, like, she seemed to be like influenced by, I thought, if she's supposed to be like this strong character, to me, she is just like being directed. She is not, doesn't have any of agency of her own. She seems to be, any breath of wind seems to change her direction. And I found that frustrating. And by the end of the series, I was getting a bit like, what is it you actually want? Because I don't get it. And so I find it a bit frustrating to watch. And I just found the whole character of Lasher, I must admit, I was thinking, well, I can't, to me, I did not see that sort of charisma, that charm, that hypnotism, that they all seem to be drawn to this one chap. And
Yeah.
I didn't see that. And I thought, I know in the book it's probably written in a quite a different way. And so I think he becomes like all things to, you're muted, sorry, Holly.
Yeah, Holly, you're muted.
Yeah, I think he must be like all things to all men. So like to each woman, he personifies their ideal. But to me, where it was the same actor who played him throughout the ages, I was thinking, I don't get it. This one male archetype would not appeal to every single generation of these women.
In
And I didn't see it.
the book, the way it's done is he has a sort of preferred appearance, but will adapt himself to his witch.
Yes.
and to the times that they're living in. So he would appear in appropriate clothing, and yeah, I didn't like the casting. He didn't feel right. Can't tell
I
you
just
why.
did not see that. I didn't see that irresistible nature of, because you think if every woman in the like 13 generations are all they become utterly devoted to him, I just didn't see it. I thought he just smirks at them and he's there suddenly like, oh, I'm yours. It's like, no, get off. So
Play,
I
Yeah,
did not.
played
I didn't
by
see it.
Jack Houston.
Normally he's very good. He can play a really charismatic character, but in this, I thought you do not. What I was thinking of, I saw years and years ago a program called Hex, where a young Michael Fassbender played like a demon, and he was so charismatic that you could understand it, even though they recognised the fact that he was probably a demon. They
Michael
were like, he
Fassbender
was
was in
so,
Hex.
yeah. I have to think of the right one. It's with it's an early, I think it's early one of his early appearances, and you're going yes, but I did not see that in that Houston's character somehow. It just didn't work for me, and so I probably by the end of this 8 episodes, I was getting a bit like, you know what, I'm not really into this. I want to persevere with it, but I didn't. It didn't make me think, yes, I'm going to have to go read these books. So for me, it left me a little bit flat.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, but you just blow my mind. I've just googled Michael Fassbender Hex, and you're right. He was in Hex. I'm looking at
I
pictures of
didn't
him
realise
now,
he was in it.
and I'm like, whoa! Did not
He was so
realize.
charismatic in it. He was just absolutely perfect in that role because you could see how he would just like become
It
all
was
things to
it
all
was him.
people.
You're right. I mean, I wouldn't question you, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, sorry, sorry.
he
Okay,
was so good in it.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry, but I know that now this is going from Mayfair Witches to like a retrospective on Hex, because that always I never watched Hex. I always thought of that as that was one of those Sky One TV shows that was just trying to look how cool we are, but we don't really have the budget, and oh my god, that's blown my mind that Michael Fassbender was in Hex. Oh, anyway, okay, let's go to
X is good.
let's go to star ratings. How many stars would you give it, Sharon?
I would only give it a 2 because I
Okay.
got a little bit fed up by the end. I think they had some good things about it, but by the end, and when there's a bit where it's in like 17th century Scotland, I didn't believe any of the accents. I didn't believe it was 17th century Scotland. The way they were dressed, they were dressed like you expect, sort of like medieval peasants to dress. So I'm thinking, this is not that long ago. I can walk down the road and I can see buildings that would have existed in 1670s and the 1650s. It's not that long ago. One of my friends lived in a house that was built in about the 16 whatevers, and it's like it's not, and they weren't living in mud huts and grubbing around in
Yeah, yeah.
homespun clothes. So they made it look like it was so primitive. I was thinking, even the Scottish were not
It
sort of grubbing around in sort of this primitive
doesn't
stuff.
happen like
I didn't
it didn't
believe
happen
it.
like that in the book either. That doesn't happen in the book.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, but
Annoyed me.
I think they
America.
have like this Hollywood idea or this whatever. It's like this is what 17th century Scotland was like. It's like you've obviously not seen a 17th century village. They weren't,
No, yeah. Oh, but
troglodytes.
then again, I think whenever you have a Hollywood idea of a historical thing of a place that isn't America, I get really worried because they are not known for trying for doing any research, whatever. They're like, yeah, whatever, yeah, it was olden times, whatever. Okay, cool. So two stars from Sharon and Holly.
2 for me, but I'd be interested in what you thought of it, Holly, as some of the
I'm
books.
going to give it a grudging 3 because I love the book so much, but I'm much closer to it's at the bottom end of the 3, and I'm wincing as I do it. I was disappointed by it.
Cool. So thank you
It's
for
hard though if you love the book, it's even worse. It's even worse. So I came at it cold, so
Yeah.
I
Do
was
read the
able to.
books. I think you'll like the books.
Our library's quite good for that sort of thing, so I'll have to look down our local library.
Yes, give it a go.
all right, cool. So
A note on the books.
all right, and yeah, thank you for confirming that I'm okay to not watch that.